Hello and welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Miranda and today, well, it's that time of year again. It's Women in Translation Month, almost, which means it's almost August, which means it's almost September, which means it's almost autumn. I mean, it's not really, but we're in the second half of the year, which means autumn is on its way. And I am so excited, but that is not the point of this video. We're not celebrating autumn today. We are celebrating Women in Translation Month. Yay! Basically, Women in Translation Month is August, and it's where we try and read as many books as possible by women in translation, and if they're also translated by women, amazing, brilliant. I'm not too sure about the origins of this. I know that some people on Booktube do a kind of readathon type thing. I try to just read as many books as I can written by women in translation, and I have done for the last, I think this is my third year doing it, and I love it. It's so much fun, and I really have not been that good on reading translated books this year, partly because most of the books from different countries and the books in translation that I read are often for my my degree, and this year I was only doing one literature module, and it was a Russian literature module, so I've pretty much only read books by Russian men and lots of books by authors from the UK and the US, but that is all gonna change. I mean, saying that, I only have 3 books that I actually have with me on my TBR. So anyway, all that rambling aside, what I'm actually going to do today is talk to you about the books I am going to read in August for Women in Translation Month, the books that I don't have but I still want to read, whether I can get them some other way, or maybe I'll even buy a book. Oh my god, shock. And also then I'm going to recommend you some books, because I like doing that. Enough, onto the business. The first book that I'm definitely going to read this month, or next month, in August, is Minor Detail by Adania Shibli, translated by someone. Elisabeth Jacquette. So this is both written and translated by women. I'm not sure what language it was originally written in, actually. Oh, okay, from Arabic. So yeah, I've never read a book that was originally written in Arabic before, so this is really interesting. I've also never written a book, I have never written a book, but I've never read a book by a Palestinian author. And as far as I know, this book is kind of 2 halves. So the first follows a Palestinian woman who is, I think, attacked by some soldiers, and then the second half follows a woman looking back on this kind of small event, and all the minor detail in a kind of larger history, and getting kind of fascinated by it. And yeah, it just sounds like my kind of thing, and I'm very excited about this. Next is Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk. This is translated from Polish by Antonia Lloyd-Jones. So I can't really remember what this one's about. I know, are we surprised? It says, in a remote Polish village, I'm gonna butcher the names, I'm sorry, Janina Dejezko, an eccentric woman in her 60s, recounts the events surrounding the disappearance of her 2 dogs. She is reclusive, preferring the companies of animal to people. She is unconventional, believing in the stars, and she is fond of the poetry of William Blake, from whose work the title of the book is taken. When members of a local hunting club are found murdered, she becomes involved in the investigation. Yeah, so it's kind of a thriller, but like literary. She also won the Nobel Prize for Literature, which is pretty fucking cool. So don't know what to expect. I think I've heard that it's kind of funny. I honestly have no idea what to expect from this, but I'm very excited, and I've heard lots of really good things. Then lastly, the only other book that I actually own at the moment, which is written by women in translation, is Where the Wild Ladies Are by Matsuda Aoko, translated by Barton from Japanese, I'm pretty sure, yes, because this is a collection of retellings of traditional Japanese ghost stories, written, I think, retold in a kind of feminist way, which is just everything I love. Like, I love Japanese literature, I love retellings of like traditional stories, I love ghosty things, I love women, like it's everything, and I am incredibly excited about this. A book that I do really want to read, which is not technically translated, but it is about translation, is 50 Sounds by Polly Barton, who is the translator of Where the Wild Ladies Are, and 50 Sounds is her kind of memoir, I think, about her experience of going to Japan and learning Japanese, and honestly, anything about translation I'm all for, so I am incredibly interested in that, and I really want to get my hands on it fairly soon. So the next one is Mother of 1084 by Mahasweta Devi. So this is a book about an uprising in Bengal that was, I think it was written during this sort of rebellion, and that was then kind of repressed by the government, and the title comes from the fact that it is about, I think it's narrated by a mother who is kind of mourning the loss of her son, who is now only known as Corpse 1084, and that's how she kind of finds him in a morgue. And what sounds really interesting about this is that it's kind of about the mother's journey to understanding why her son was rebelling in the first place, and why he was such a kind of passionate revolutionary, and kind of realising her own sort of alienation from the kind of society that she lives in, and that sounds really interesting. I can't remember what video put me onto this book. I think it was a video about short translated books from India. I can't remember who made it, but if I can find it I will link it in the description, because there are lots of books on that list that I really want to read, and that I'd never heard of, so sounds really cool. The next book I'm interested in is Cockroaches by Scholastique Mukasonga, which is a memoir written in 2006 by this author who lost many of her family in the Rwandan genocide. And the reason I want to read this is because I am possibly planning on doing my dissertation on African women's literature around kind of war and revolution and things. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm kind of interested to read more in that sort of vein. And yeah, and anyway, I heard this is a really good one, and obviously it's going to be immensely distressing and sad, but I really want to read it. Another book I really want to read soon is Hotel Iris by Yoko Ogawa. I've read 3 books by Yoko Ogawa now, and I love her writing so much, and I think this is probably the next one I'll get to. I can't remember what it's about, but I know that I want to read it. I also want to read Kim Ji-young, born 1984, which is by, who is it by? It's by Cho Nam-ju and translated by Jamie Chang, and yeah, that's just one that I've heard a lot about. I think it's about kind of expectations for women in South Korea, which is a society that I know very little about, so I'm kind of interested in that. And I'm pretty sure the ebook is on Scribd, so I'll probably nab that at some point during the month. I also really want to read The Vegetarian by Han Kang, which is another Korean book, and one that I've had on my radar for ages, and I've just never picked it up, and I feel like I will really enjoy it when I finally get around to it. And yeah, that's about gender in South Korea, I think, and about a woman who chooses to go vegetarian and kind of can take control over her body, and all the people around her who kind of have thoughts and feelings about this decision. Obviously there are lots of other books written by women in translation that I would really love to read at some point, but I'm not going to go through them all because that'll get boring, so we're going to move on to recommendations, because I have some. So first up is a book I read for uni, and that is Women of Algiers in Their Apartment by Asia Jabar, translated by Marjolin de Jager, and this is a collection of short stories about Algerian women, and they're all very different and very kind of experimental. I feel like I need to reread this sometime soon, because the first time I read it I had very little idea of what was going on a lot of the time. I know that the stories that we went through in seminars and we kind of got really into the details of, I was like, this is amazing. So I think if you like experimental short stories, that's a really good one. And so is Where Europe Begins by Yoko Tawada, another book that I read the short story Where Europe Begins for uni, and then I read the entire collection, which is also called Where Europe Begins, for me a few months later. And again, very experimental short stories, but in a different way. So they're more kind of horror, weird, just sort of surrealist. And if you're feeling like something weird and surreal, they're great. Then we have Real Life by Adeline Giordone, translated by Roland Glacé, and this is a Belgian book, and it's not Real Life by Brandon Taylor, which I have still not yet read. So this is about a young girl, and she lives in a very kind of abusive household where her father is quite violent and aggressive, and her mother is very sort of downtrodden. And after a really traumatic accident that her and her brother witness, she feels like her brother is kind of retreating away from her and into the toxic masculinity that her father kind of exhibits, I guess, and embodies. Lots of creepy shit happens. It's written in a very unique way, where it feels kind of like a dream, but also it's from a child's perspective, talking about incredibly adult things, and I just think it is a really unique book that I have never heard anyone else talk about. I only saw it once when I walked into Foyles and I thought, that looks like a cool cover, I'll buy that book, and then I've never seen it again. So I would really recommend that. Then just a couple of authors that I love. I already mentioned Yoko Ogawa. I loved The Housekeeper and the Professor and The Memory Police. They're both great. Revenge is good too. That's a short story collection. Again, kind of creepy short stories. I didn't love that one quite as much, but it's good. I love Delphine de Vigan, who is a French writer. I have read Gratitude and Loyalties by her. Both of them were very good. Gratitude is about a woman in a nursing home who is losing her memory and losing the ability to recall words, and Loyalties is about a set of two families brought together by two young boys who deal with the kind of uncertainty around growing up and puberty by sneaking off together and drinking at school, and getting really drunk, and they're about 12. Then obviously we have Sayaka Murata, a classic. I read Convenience Store Woman last year for Women in Translation Month, loved it, it's great. And then I read Earthlings earlier this year, and that is also great, but incredibly disturbing. It's a wild ride, but they're both great. So yeah, I think that's all the books I want to talk about today. If you have any books you would like to recommend to me, please do, because God knows I don't have enough books already that I need to read. Also, it is my first Booktube anniversary coming up on Saturday, the 31st, whatever the 31st is, I think it's Saturday. Yeah, and I am gonna do a little, not very exciting, but a little celebration type bonus video. As far as I know, there are like 2 YouTube anniversary tags, and I'm gonna answer a few questions from both of those and kind of have a little discussion, and then I will also answer some questions from my Instagram and from the comments of this video, if you have any. If you want to know anything, like, why is this book always wonky? I can't reach it. Nah. It's because we have no bookends, and books from this side are always falling into the plant. It's very sad. One question you could very reasonably ask me would be, Miranda, why is your TBR pile not going down as quickly as you'd like it to? And I would say, I don't know. So last week I did a unhaul. I got rid of some of these books that I haven't read, and I mean, I say I got rid of them, they're still here. My phone is currently balanced on them, but I have unhauled some books and I got my TBR down to 107, but as of today, it is, well, as of today when I'm filming, it's 108, but as of today when I'm uploading, it is this number. Who knows what it could be? Will I finish a book in the next couple of days? Probably not. The reason it's gone up again is because my mum bought me a present because she's lovely and I love her very much. I realised that I hadn't added on another book that I have had for a few weeks that I thought I was going to read instantly, and then I just haven't. So I was like, you know what, I should probably actually put that on my TBR and count it instead of just having it sit around until I decide to read it. Anyway, I need to stop going on. So thank you very much for being here. Yeah, again, questions, hit me up, please. And I will see you very soon in fact, in 2 days, on Saturday for the birthday. I might even have some cake. Wow.